The crash came first. Sharp, violent, wrong. Not far away, not somewhere down the road. Right here. A motorcycle lost control. Metal slammed into asphalt. Sparks exploded. The bike flipped hard, sliding across the road. Then silence for half a second. Then the fire. Fuel spilled fast, caught instantly. Flames ran along the ground, climbed over the wrecked bike like they'd been waiting. And then a man started screaming. 200 yards away, inside a small house no one paid attention to anymore, an old man sat in complete darkness. He didn't see anything. He heard it. His head tilted slightly, focused, listening. Not to the fire, to something else. Breathing. Broken, sharp, fighting for air. He stood up slowly. No panic, no rush, just movement. The door opened, cold air pushed in, smoke followed behind it, thin at first, then thicker. He stepped outside, barefoot. Gravel shifted under his feet. He turned his head slightly, listening again. The fire cracked, fuel hissed as it burned along the ground. Metal ticked as the bike cooled and warped at the same time. And under all of it, that breathing, still there, still alive. He moved faster now, not guessing, every step placed like he knew the ground. The heat reached him, low at first, then stronger, pushing against his face. He didn't stop. A burst of flame jumped across a line of fuel. Close. Too close. No reaction. Closer. The screaming broke apart, weaker now. He stopped for 1 second, listening. The bike lay on its side, engine still ticking, fuel spreading. The rider was trapped, pinned under the frame, one leg twisted wrong. The old man stepped forward, into the edge of the fire, his hand lifted, feeling heat, air, direction. He crouched, touched metal, too hot, shifted, found the rider, leather jacket, shoulder. The man inside barely moved. A broken voice came out. "Help." The old man tightened his grip. "You're not dead." Calm, flat, certain. He braced his feet, pulled. Nothing. The bike was pinning him down. The fire crept closer, fuel burning toward them. Time was gone. The old man leaned in deeper, heat wrapped around him. His hand moved lower, found the leg, trapped under the frame. No time for careful. He shifted his stance, then pulled hard. The rider screamed, sharp, raw. The metal shifted slightly, not enough. He pulled again, harder. The frame lifted just enough. The leg slipped free. The old man didn't stop. He dragged him out. Both of them hit the ground. He rolled once, coughed. Smoke burned his lungs, but his hands were already moving, checking, chest, breathing. Still there, weak, but alive. Behind them, the fire swallowed the bike, fuel igniting in a sudden burst. 2 seconds later, and he'd be gone. The old man grabbed the jacket, started pulling him away, step by step, slow, controlled, like weight didn't matter, like pain didn't exist. They reached cooler air, still smoke, but survivable. He stopped, listened. No. Immediate danger, he let go. The rider rolled onto his back, gasping, trying to see, trying to understand. His eyes locked on the man above him and froze. "You," his voice cracked, "you're blind." No answer. The old man turned his head slightly, listening, far away. Sirens. Too late. The rider tried to move, failed. "Who are you?" The old man stood up, burned arm, heavy breath, but his voice didn't change. "Doesn't matter." He turned, started walking away into the dark. "Wait!" Nothing. Just footsteps on gravel, fading. The fire kept burning, sirens got closer, and the man who saved him was already gone. The rider woke up to sirens, not quiet ones, loud, close, cutting through everything. Red and blue lights flashing across smoke, across twisted metal, across what was left of the road. Voices everywhere. "Stay with me. Get a stretcher. Watch the fuel line." Hands on him, pulling, checking, lifting. But he wasn't listening to them. He was looking past them, trying to find the man, the old man, gone, like he was never there. "Sir, can you hear me?" A paramedic leaned in close. The rider blinked slowly. "Yeah." "Good. Stay with me. What's your name?" He hesitated, not because he forgot, because his head was somewhere else. "Cole." "Cole, you're gonna be okay. Just stay with us." Cole grabbed the paramedic's sleeve weakly. "There was someone." The paramedic didn't stop working. "Yeah, we got you. You're safe now." "No." Cole shook his head slightly, coughing. "Not you. Someone else pulled me out." The paramedic glanced at another responder. Quick look, then back to Cole. "Anyone else in the vehicle?" No. He left." "Who left?" Cole swallowed, throat dry, burning. "The old man. He was blind." That made the paramedic pause for half a second, just enough. "Blind?" Cole nodded weakly. "He walked into the fire. Just walked in." The paramedic looked around. Fire crews, police, nobody matching that description. "You sure you didn't hit your head too hard?" Cole's eyes snapped back with what little strength he had. "I didn't imagine him." The paramedic held his gaze for a second, then nodded once. "All right, we'll note it." They lifted him onto the stretcher, strapped him down. The world tilted slightly as they carried him toward the ambulance. Cole kept trying to look around, left, right, through smoke, through flashing lights. Nothing. The road behind him burned. The wreck collapsed further in on itself. Whatever trace of that man had been there, gone. Inside the ambulance, the doors slammed shut. Sound changed instantly, muffled, controlled. Too clean, too normal. Cole stared at the ceiling, breathing hard, mind replaying it over and over. The heat, the voice. "You're not dead." That voice didn't sound scared, didn't sound rushed. It sounded like someone who had done this before, too many times. "Stay with me, Cole." The paramedic adjusted something near his arm. "You're lucky. Another minute in there." Cole turned his head slightly. "I wouldn't be here." The paramedic didn't answer that, didn't need to. They both knew Cole closed his eyes for a second, then opened them again. No one saw him? The paramedic shook his head. Fire crew got there right after the call. Nobody reported anyone else. Cole let out a slow breath, then a small, broken laugh. He just walked away. The ambulance started moving, sirens screaming again, cutting through the night. Cole stared at the ceiling, then spoke quietly, more to himself than anyone else. He didn't even tell me his name. Hours later, the hospital was quiet. Too quiet. White lights, clean walls, machines beeping in steady rhythm. Cole sat up slightly in the bed, arm wrapped, side bruised, breathing still rough but stable. Alive. Across the room, 3 men stood near the window, leather vests, patches, silent. They didn't look like visitors. They looked like they belonged somewhere else entirely. One of them stepped forward, Big guy, mid-50s, gray in his beard, eyes sharp. "About time you woke up." Cole gave a small, tired smirk. "Took a nap." The man didn't smile. "What happened?" Straight to it, no small talk. Cole looked at him, then at the others. "Bike's gone. We'll get another one." "That's not what I meant." Silence. The man stepped closer. "Then say what you meant." Cole shifted slightly, pain hitting but ignored. "I should be dead." Nobody argued. Nobody needed to. Cole looked past them for a second, then back. "There was someone." That got their attention. All of it. "Someone pulled me out." The gray-bearded man frowned slightly. "Fire crew?" Cole shook his head. "No, before them." Another biker spoke from the back. "You see his face?" Cole paused, then nodded slowly. "Yeah." "What did he look like?" Cole swallowed. "Old. Real old." "Go on." "Blind." That word landed different. You could feel it. The room shifted slightly. Not visibly, but it was there. The gray-bearded man's expression tightened. "Blind." Cole nodded. "He walked straight into the fire, like he knew exactly where I was." No one spoke, not for a few seconds. Then one of the younger bikers let out a quiet breath. "That doesn't make sense." Cole looked at him. "I know." The gray-bearded man stepped back slightly, thinking. Something in his face changed. Not fully, just a crack, small, barely there. "Where?" he asked. Cole blinked. "What?" "Where did it happen exactly?" Cole gave the location, the road, the turn, the distance from town. The man listened carefully, too carefully, then nodded once. "We'll check it." Cole watched him. "You don't believe me?" The man looked at him, straight. "I believe you're alive." Then he turned. "Rest up." And just like that, they started leaving, one by one. Heavy boots, no noise, no questions. Except one. The youngest one stopped at the door, turned back. "Did he say anything else?" Cole thought about it. That moment. That voice. Then he shook his head slowly. "Just one thing." "What?" Cole looked at him. "He said I wasn't dead." Silence again. Then the biker nodded and left. The door closed. Cole was alone again, machines beeping, lights steady. But something had already changed, because somewhere out there, on that road, there was a blind old man who walked into fire and didn't wait to be thanked. They didn't wait, not until morning, not until it made sense. They moved that same night. 3 bikes first, then 5 more. Engines low, controlled, cutting through empty roads. No lights they didn't need, no wasted movement. The gray-bearded man led, didn't speak, didn't explain. But the others followed anyway, because something in his face told them this wasn't random. This wasn't just about Cole. The road came into view, still dark, still smoking. The wreck was gone, cleared fast, too fast. Only black marks left on the asphalt. Burned ground. The smell still hanging in the air. They killed the engines one by one. Silence dropped heavy. No wind, no traffic. Just heat trapped in the ground. The man stepped off his bike, slow, measured, looked around. Not like he was searching, like he was remembering. "This is it," one of them said. Cole had given them the exact spot. Distance matched, turn matched, everything matched. But there was nothing here. No house, no light, no sign of anyone living nearby. Just empty land, trees, dry brush, and silence. The youngest one frowned. He said 200 yards. Another biker pointed. There's something out there. Barely visible through the trees. A shape, low, old. Could have been nothing, could have been everything. The gray-bearded man didn't say a word, just started walking. Others followed, boots crunching on dirt, branches snapping under weight. The air changed as they moved. Less smoke, more stillness, like the place was cut off from everything else. Then they saw it. A house, small, wooden, old enough that it didn't belong to anything modern. No lights, no movement, just sitting there like it had always been there. One of the bikers muttered, "That's where he came from?" No answer. The man kept walking, closer now, closer, until they were standing just outside the yard. No fence, no gate, just open ground leading to the door. And something about it felt wrong. Not dangerous, just quiet. Too quiet. The youngest shifted slightly. "You sure about this?" The gray-bearded man finally spoke. "I didn't come here to be sure." Then he stepped forward, onto the property. No hesitation. The others followed. No one stayed behind. They reached the porch. Wood creaked under weight. The door was right there. Closed. Still. The man raised his hand, knocked once. Firm, not loud. They waited. Nothing. No sound inside. No movement. Another knock. Same result. The youngest leaned closer. "Maybe he's not even here." Before anyone could answer, a voice came from inside. Calm, low, clear. "You're standing too heavy." Every single one of them froze. The voice continued. "4 of you shifted when you stepped on the porch." Silence. Then, doors unlocked. No fear in that voice, no surprise, like he already knew they were coming. The gray-bearded man pushed the door open slowly. Inside was dark, not completely, but close enough that most people would hesitate. He didn't. Stepped in. The others followed. The air inside was different, cooler, still. Smelled like old wood, oil, metal, and something else. Something familiar. They didn't speak, didn't need to. Their eyes adjusted slowly. Shapes forming, a table, tools, shelves, and then him, sitting in a chair, facing them, not looking, but still, facing them. Old, still, hands resting calmly, no tension, no fear, like a man waiting, not hiding. The youngest spoke first without meaning to. "That's him." Cole had described him perfectly. The burns on his arm, the way he held himself, everything matched. The gray-bearded man stepped forward slightly, stopped a few feet away, studied him, long, careful, then spoke. "You pulled one of ours out of that fire." The old man didn't move, didn't react. "Yeah." Just that. Simple, flat. No pride, no explanation. The biker's jaw tightened slightly. "You walked away." "Nothing else to do there." Silence again. The room felt heavier now, like something was building, slow. The youngest shifted again. "You blind?" The old man tilted his head slightly, not offended, not surprised. "Been a while?" Another pause. Then the gray-bearded man asked, "Why didn't you call anyone?" The answer came instantly. "Didn't need to." That did something, subtle but real, because that wasn't how normal people talked. That wasn't how normal people acted. The man took one more step, forward, closer now. close enough to really see him. The scars, the burns, the hands, and something else, something older than the room. You knew what you were doing. The old man gave the smallest shrug. Fire's loud. Silence again. Then, breathing's louder. That line landed hard. Nobody spoke for a few seconds, because now it didn't feel like coincidence anymore. Didn't feel like luck. The gray-bearded man looked around the room, slow, careful, and that's when he saw it. In the corner, half covered under a worn piece of cloth, something with shape, weight, familiar lines. He moved toward it. The others noticed, watched, didn't interrupt. He reached out, paused for half a second, then pulled the cloth back. And everything changed. The cloth came off slow, not dramatic, not rushed, but the second it moved, the room changed. You could feel it, even before they fully saw it. A bike. Old. Not just old. Different. Heavy frame. Custom work. Lines that didn't come from a factory. They came from hands, from someone who knew exactly what they were building. The gray-bearded man froze. Didn't touch it yet, just looked. Closer, step by step. Like he wasn't sure he wanted to confirm what he was seeing. One of the others moved in slightly. What is it? No answer. The man reached out. His fingers stopped just short of the metal, then finally made contact. Light, careful, like touching something that shouldn't exist anymore. His jaw tightened. No. Barely a whisper. Another biker stepped closer, then another. Now all of them looking, trying to understand. What? The gray-bearded man didn't look at them, didn't move his hand. This bike, he swallowed. This isn't just any bike. The youngest frowned. Then what is it? Silence, long, heavy. Then the man spoke again, lower now, like saying it out loud made it real. This is his. That didn't land for everyone, not yet. Whose? The man finally turned his head slightly, looked at them one by one. You don't recognize it? They didn't, not fully, not yet, but something about it felt wrong, like a memory just out of reach. The man stepped back slowly, eyes still locked on the bike. This frame, this engine setup. He shook his head once. I haven't seen this in 20 years. That got attention, real attention. 20? He nodded, then pointed. There, look at that weld line. One of the bikers leaned closer, squinted. Yeah, so? That's not factory. No kidding. It's not just custom either. The man's voice tightened. That's a signature. Silence again. Now it was starting. The shift. Slow realization. The youngest stepped closer. What are you saying? The gray-bearded man didn't answer right away, because now he wasn't just looking at the bike. He was remembering something. Something buried, something old, something he hadn't touched in years. Then he said it, quiet, but it hit harder than anything loud. He built this. The room went still, not confused, not yet, but close. Who? The man finally turned fully, eyes sharp now, different. You really don't know? That wasn't a question. That was pressure, the kind that forces memory to wake up. One of the older bikers in the back shifted, slow, then stepped forward, looked at the bike, long, careful. Then his face changed, subtle but real. No way. Now it spread fast like fire, but quiet. What? Say it. The man didn't want to. You could see it. but it was already too late. That's the founder's bike. Silence. Dead silence. Nobody moved. Nobody breathed properly. The youngest shook his head immediately. No, that's not possible. It was lost. Destroyed. He died with it. That's what we were told. Voices rising slightly now, not loud, but tense, sharp. The gray-bearded man snapped, "Look at it!" That shut them up, instant. "Look at it properly." They did. Now really looking, not just seeing. The details, the build, the age, the craftsmanship. The things you don't fake, the things you don't copy. And slowly, one by one, it hit them. This wasn't similar. This wasn't inspired. This was the same. The exact same. The bike everyone in the club knew. The one that started everything. The one that disappeared the night he did. No one spoke, because there was only one way this made sense, and nobody wanted to say it first. Behind them, the old man spoke, still sitting, still calm. "You done staring at it?" They turned, all at once, like they forgot he was even there. The gray-bearded man stepped forward again, slower this time, different. "Where did you get that bike?" The old man tilted his head slightly, like the question didn't interest him. "Been here a while." That answer wasn't enough, not even close. The man's voice dropped, tighter now. "That bike belonged to someone." "I know." "You know who?" Pause. Then, "Yeah." The room tightened even more. The youngest stepped forward. "You're telling me you just have it?" The old man didn't respond to him, didn't even turn. The gray-bearded man tried again. "Where is he?" That question sat in the air, heavy, because now they weren't asking about a bike anymore. They were asking about a ghost. The old man finally shifted slightly in his chair, not much, just enough. "He's not coming back." That hit hard. Different kind of silence now, not confusion, something closer to anger or denial. The youngest shook his head. "That's not an answer." The gray-bearded man raised a hand slightly, stopping him. His eyes stayed locked on the old man. "You knew him." Not a question. The old man didn't deny it, didn't confirm it either, just said, "Long time ago." The man took another step, close now, very close. "You know what happened to him?" The old man's face didn't change, but something shifted. Small, almost nothing. "I know enough." That wasn't good enough, not even close. The tension in the room was building, fast, because now they were standing in front of something impossible. A bike that shouldn't exist. A man who knew too much, and a story that didn't match what they'd been told for decades. The gray-bearded man lowered his voice. "You're going to tell me exactly what you know." And for the first time, the old man smiled slightly. Not friendly, not mocking, just tired. "You're asking the wrong question." Silence. Then, "What's the right one?" The old man leaned back slightly, hands resting again, calm, like none of this mattered to him. "You should be asking why he never came back." That landed, different, because that question was worse. Nobody spoke for a few seconds. That question hung in the room. Why he never came back. Not where he went, not how he died. Why? That was worse. The gray-bearded man didn't move, but his eyes changed slightly, like something old just got pulled to the surface. "You're saying he chose not to come back?" The old man didn't answer right away, just sat there, still. Then, "People don't disappear by accident." That hit hard. The youngest shook his head. "That's not how it happened. You don't know how it happened." That shut him up, fast. The gray-bearded man stepped closer. "Then tell me." His voice was lower now, controlled, but there was something under it, something close to breaking. "You were there?" The old man tilted his head slightly. "No." "Then how do you know?" Pause. Then, "I was there before." Silence again, the kind that builds pressure. The gray-bearded man studied him, long, careful. "You talk like you knew him real well." "I did." Simple, no hesitation. That wasn't helping, not anymore. One of the older bikers stepped forward. "What was his name?" The room tightened, because now it mattered. Not story, not legend, name. The old man didn't answer immediately. For the first time, there was a delay, small but real. "Then, you already know his name." That wasn't wrong, but it wasn't an answer. "Say it." The old man's face stayed still, but his voice changed just a little. Quieter. "He had more than one." That hit differently, because that was true. Everyone in that room knew it. Real names, road names, names you earn, names you bury. The gray-bearded man stepped even closer now, close enough that he could see every line on the old man's face, every scar, every mark time left behind. "You're avoiding it." "No." "Then say it." The old man turned his head slightly, not toward him, just enough, like he was listening again, not to them, to something else. Then he said it, low, steady, like it weighed nothing. "They called him Ash." The room broke. Not loud, not chaos, but something inside all of them snapped tight at once. The youngest stepped back. "No!" Another one shook his head slowly. "That name's been dead for years." The older biker who recognized the bike went still, completely still, because now it wasn't theory anymore. It was real. The gray-bearded man didn't move, didn't blink, just stared at the old man. "You don't say that name unless you know what it means." "I know what it means." "How?" The old man finally turned his face slightly toward him, not looking, but still facing him. "I gave it to him." Everything stopped. Not just silence, something deeper, like the air itself dropped. Nobody spoke, because that didn't make sense. That couldn't make sense. The youngest whispered, "That's not possible." The gray-bearded man's voice came out rough now, not controlled anymore. "Who are you?" The old man didn't answer, not directly. Instead, he said, "You kept the club together?" That threw it sideways. The man blinked once. "Yeah?" "Long time?" "Long enough." The old man nodded slightly. "Good." That wasn't casual. That wasn't small talk. That was evaluation. And now it was clear. He wasn't just some man who knew stories. He was talking like someone who had a right to ask. The gray-bearded man took another step, close enough now that there was nothing between them. "You don't get to ask me that unless—" He stopped himself, because something clicked, hard, sudden, like pieces finally lining up. The bike, the name, the way he spoke, the way he didn't react, the way he sat there like none of this was surprising. The man's voice dropped, almost a whisper. No. The others looked at him, confused. What? He didn't answer them, didn't take his eyes off the old man. You were there. Not a question, a realization, slow, heavy. You built it. Silence. The old man didn't confirm it, didn't deny it, but he didn't need to anymore, because now it was obvious. The gray-bearded man's chest rose slowly, fell. You didn't die. That one landed the hardest, because that was the story, the one everyone believed, the one that built everything after. And now, it was wrong. The youngest looked between them. You're saying... The gray-bearded man cut him off, low, sharp. He's saying nothing. Pause, then quieter. But it's all there. The room shifted again, this time not confusion, something else, something closer to respect, mixed with disbelief, mixed with something heavier. The gray-bearded man straightened slightly, not aggressive anymore, different now, careful. Say it. The old man exhaled slowly, like he didn't want to, like it didn't matter to him anymore. Then, I don't ride anymore. That wasn't what they asked, but it was the answer, because it told them everything. The man who started it, the man they built stories around, the man they thought burned with that bike, was sitting right in front of them. Blind, old, and done. No comeback, no return, just finished. Nobody knew what to say, because what do you say to a legend when he doesn't want to be one anymore? Nobody moved. Nobody reached for anything. No one even looked at the bike anymore, because now the bike didn't matter. The man did. The gray-bearded man stepped back slowly, not out of fear, out of respect. Real respect. The kind you don't fake. You should have been dead, he said quietly. The old man gave a small shrug. Almost was. That landed heavy, because now it wasn't just legend. It was real. The youngest looked between them, still trying to catch up. So what? You just walked away? No answer. The old man stayed still, hands resting, calm. The gray-bearded man understood before anyone else did. You didn't walk away. Pause. You stayed gone. That was closer. The old man tilted his head slightly. Same thing. No, it's not. That came sharper. The man stepped forward again. You built something. Then you disappeared and let everyone else carry it? Now there was something in his voice. Not anger exactly. Something more complicated. The old man didn't react. Didn't let anyone do anything. Then why? Silence. The longest one yet. Because now it wasn't about identity. Now it was about the past, and that was heavier. The old man finally spoke. Fire doesn't care who you are. That line sat there, strange, out of place, until it wasn't. The gray-bearded man's face changed again. You lost someone. Not a guess. The old man didn't confirm it, but he didn't deny it either. That was enough. The younger biker spoke. What does that have to do with leaving everything behind? The old man's voice dropped slightly, lower. You build something long enough, it stops being yours. Silence. Then, people get hurt. That hit harder than anything before, because every man in that room knew exactly what that meant. The gray-bearded man exhaled slowly. Yeah. He understood that part too well. The old man continued, "You think you're leading, but you're just putting people in the line of whatever's coming next." No one argued, because no one could. The room felt heavier now, different kind of weight, the kind that sits in your chest. The youngest shook his head slightly. "So you just disappear?" The old man answered without hesitation. "Yeah." That was it. No speech, no explanation, just that. The gray-bearded man looked at him, long, then nodded once, slow. "I kept it running." That mattered. The old man nodded back slightly. "I can tell." That was approval. Simple, but real. And it landed harder than anything else. Because coming from him, it meant something. The man took a breath. "You know what it turned into?" "Something bigger than you planned." The old man said it like he already knew. The man gave a small, tired smile. "Yeah." Pause. Then, "Too big sometimes." The old man didn't react, because that part didn't surprise him. Nothing did. The youngest looked around, confused. "So, what now?" Nobody answered him, because nobody knew. You don't prepare for this. You don't have a plan for finding someone like that, alive, sitting in a chair, like none of it mattered. The gray-bearded man finally spoke again. "Cole's alive because of you." The old man nodded slightly. "Good. That's it? What else do you want?" There was no attitude in it, no disrespect, just truth. The man let out a slow breath. Then something shifted in him. Decision. You don't get to just sit here like nothing happened. That got attention. The room tightened again. The old man didn't move. "What's supposed to happen?" "You come back." There it was, finally said out loud, the thing none of them wanted to push too early. "You come back. You see what you built. No!" It cut him off instantly. Clean, final, not loud, but absolute. The room froze again, because that wasn't hesitation. That wasn't uncertainty. That was done. The gray-bearded man didn't push right away, didn't argue. He studied him, trying to find something to work with. "You don't even want to see it?" "No." "You don't want to meet them?" "No." "You don't want—" "No!" Each one shorter, harder, until there was nothing left to ask. Silence. Then the old man added, "You came here to thank me. Do it and leave." That hit different, because now it was clear he wasn't interested. Not in the club, not in the past, not in any of it. The gray-bearded man's jaw tightened slightly. Not anger, frustration. 200 men would ride through the night to stand in this room. The old man didn't react. They already did once. That line slipped out before he could stop it, and the second it did, everyone caught it. The gray-bearded man's eyes sharpened. "What did you say?" The room shifted again, this time fast, because that wasn't random. That was memory. Real memory. The old man didn't answer, didn't repeat it, but it was already too late. The man stepped closer. "You were there." Silence. "You saw it." Nothing. "You remember." The old man exhaled slowly, like he knew this part was coming, then finally said, "I remember enough." And that was worse, because it meant everything they built, everything they carried, everything they believed about how it started. He had lived it, and walked away from it, like it was nothing. No one spoke after that, because now it wasn't just a story anymore. It was history, living, breathing, sitting right in front of them. The youngest looked between the others, trying to understand why nobody was pushing harder. "Say something," he muttered. But nobody did, because they felt it. That line they already did once, that wasn't a guess, that wasn't rumor, that was memory. And it didn't belong to anyone except him. The gray-bearded man finally stepped back, slow, measured, like he was adjusting to something bigger than the room. "You saw the first ride," he said, not a question. The old man didn't answer, didn't need to. The silence confirmed it. The man let out a long breath, almost a laugh, but not really. "Jesus." One of the older bikers leaned against the wall slightly, shook his head. "All these years." Another one muttered, "We built everything on that story." The old man spoke again, low. "You built it on what you chose to remember." That hit, because it was true. Every club had stories, and every story got cleaner with time, stronger, simpler. The gray-bearded man looked at him. "You saying it wasn't like that?" The old man tilted his head slightly. "It was worse." That landed heavier than anything else. The room went quiet again. Different quiet now, not tense, just heavy. Because now they knew, whatever happened back then wasn't legend. It was something real. And it cost something. The youngest spoke again, softer this time. "So why stay here?" That question was different. Not pushing, not demanding, just real. The old man answered without hesitation. "Because it's quiet." Simple, but it meant more than that. The gray-bearded man nodded slowly. He understood. "You built all of that." He gestured slightly. "Not just the bike. Everything. And you chose this." The old man gave the smallest shrug. "Didn't choose it all at once." That made sense, more than anything else. The man looked around the house, really looked this time. The tools, the worn wood, the way everything was placed. Nothing random, nothing wasted. "You still work?" "Sometimes." "On what?" The old man tilted his head slightly. "Whatever's broken." That line sat there. Because it wasn't just about machines. Everyone in that room felt it. The youngest looked down at the floor, then back up. "You fixed him," talking about Cole. The old man didn't respond, didn't need to. The gray-bearded man made a decision. You could see it, the shift, subtle but clear. "We're not leaving this like this." That got attention. The others looked at him. "What do you mean?" He didn't look at them, still focused on the old man. "You don't want to come back." "Fine." The old man didn't react. "But we're not just walking out like none of this happened." Pause. Then, "You saved one of ours." Another pause. "Which means you're still one of ours." That was the first time anyone said it like that. Out loud, clear, no conditions. The old man's face didn't change, but something in the room did. The weight shifted. The gray-bearded man stepped back toward the door. "Get outside," he said. The others didn't question it, didn't argue. They moved, one by one, out of the house. Boots on wood, then gravel. The youngest hesitated for half a second, looked back at the old man like he wanted to say something. Didn't, then followed the rest. The gray-bearded man was last. He stopped at the doorway, turned slightly. "You don't have to come out." Pause. "But you might want to listen." Then he stepped outside. The door stayed open. The old man didn't move, didn't stand, didn't follow. He just sat there, head slightly tilted, listening. Outside, engines started. One, then another, then more. Low at first, then building. Not loud chaos, controlled, deliberate. The sound grew. More bikes arriving. From the road, from farther out, from places that didn't show on maps. The youngest stepped back into the yard, eyes widening slightly. More are coming. The gray-bearded man nodded once. Yeah. How many did you call? Enough. The sound kept growing, layer by layer, engines stacking, deep, heavy, familiar. The kind of sound that carries history in it, the kind you don't forget. Inside the house, the old man sat still, listening. Every engine, every shift, every idle. And something in his face changed just a little, because he recognized it. Not the bikes, not the riders, the sound. That sound hadn't changed. Not really, after all these years. Outside, the yard started to fill. Rows forming, bikes lining up, men stepping off. No shouting, no chaos, just presence. Hundreds, and still coming. The youngest looked around. This is way more than enough. The gray-bearded man watched the road, calm. They need to see him. Inside, the old man finally spoke to no one, quiet. Should have stayed gone. But he didn't move, because now it was too late. They had found him. The engines didn't stop. They kept coming, one after another, from the road, from the hills, from places no one local would ever notice. The sound built into something heavy, not noise, not chaos, something controlled, something organized. The kind of sound that meant one thing. They came together, fast, the yard filled up, then the road, then past the road, rows of bikes, hundreds. Men stepping off slowly, no shouting, no laughing, no talking, just boots hitting dirt. One by one, they all faced the same direction, the house. The gray-bearded man stood at the front, arms crossed, watching, making sure everything held. The youngest walked a few steps forward, turned slowly, taking it all in. This is insane. No one answered him, because this wasn't for him. This wasn't for any of them. This was for one man. Inside the house, the old man sat still, head slightly tilted, listening. Every engine, every idle, every shift in sound. He knew exactly how many, not by counting, by feel, the way the ground carried it, the way the air changed. He exhaled slowly. Too many. Outside, the last bikes rolled in, engines cut one by one. The sound dropped, layer by layer, until it was gone. Silence, real silence. Hundreds of men, not saying a word, just standing there. The gray-bearded man stepped forward, stopped in the middle of the yard, turned slightly, looked at them, then back at the house. He didn't yell, didn't need to. They're here. Simple, but it carried. Inside, the old man heard it. Didn't respond, didn't move. But his hand shifted slightly on the arm of the chair, small, barely noticeable. Outside, the youngest leaned toward one of the older bikers. What now? The man shook his head slowly. You wait. For what? The answer came quiet. For him to decide. That didn't sit well. You could see it, but nobody argued, because this wasn't something you forced, not with him. The gray-bearded man walked back toward the porch, stopped just short of. The door didn't go in, didn't knock, just stood there like he understood the line. After a few seconds, he spoke low. You don't have to come out. Silence. Then, but they came anyway. Pause. They rode for you. Nothing. The wind moved slightly across the yard, carried the smell of oil, dust, burnt metal from miles away. Still nothing. The youngest shifted again. They're just going to stand here? Yes. How long? The answer came flat. As long as it takes. That landed, because everyone knew they meant it. Inside, the old man finally moved, slow, careful. His hand pressed against the arm of the chair. He stood up, not easy, not fast, but steady, like someone who didn't rush anything anymore. He didn't walk to the door, not yet. He stood there, listening, feeling it. That many engines, that many men, that much weight. All for him. His jaw tightened slightly, not from fear, from something else, something older outside. The gray-bearded man heard it, the shift, small movement inside. He didn't turn, didn't call it out, just waited. The youngest noticed. He's moving. No one reacted, but everyone felt it. The air changed again inside. The old man took one step, then another. Slow, measured. He knew exactly where the door was, didn't need to see it. His hand reached out, found the frame, paused for just a second, then pushed it open wider. Light from outside cut into the room. He stepped out onto the porch, barefoot, burned arm still marked, old jacket, still silent. Hundreds of men in front of him, and not one of them spoke. Not one. The youngest swallowed hard. That's him. No one needed him to say it. They all knew. The old man stood there, head slightly tilted, listening, feeling all of them. The gray-bearded man turned slowly, faced him fully. For the first time, not as a question, not as doubt, but as fact. There he was, the man they buried in stories, standing right in front of them, alive. The old man spoke first, quiet, almost tired. You made your point. No reaction, no movement. The gray-bearded man shook his head once, slow. No. Pause. Then, they did. He stepped aside slightly, not blocking the view anymore, letting the old man feel all of it, all of them. They came to see you. Silence. Heavy. Real. The old man stood there, didn't speak, didn't step forward, didn't step back, just stood. And for the first time, it felt like even he didn't know what to do with it. Nobody moved, not one step, not one word. Hundreds of men, standing still, facing him, like the noise had been cut out of the world. The old man stood on the porch, head slightly tilted, taking it in without seeing it, feeling it, the weight of it, the number of them. He exhaled slowly. Shouldn't have come. The gray-bearded man didn't react. They weren't asked to. That mattered, because it was true. No one was forced here. No one was ordered. They came because they chose to. The old man's jaw tightened slightly. You got your thanks. No. That came simple, flat, final. The man took one step forward into the open space between the porch and the crowd. They didn't ride out here to say thank you. Pause. They rode out here because you're still here. That landed. Different. The old man didn't answer, didn't move, but his hand shifted slightly again, small, almost nothing. The youngest couldn't hold it anymore. He stepped forward a bit. Do you even know what you are to them? The gray-bearded man didn't stop in this time, didn't need to. The old man turned his head slightly toward the voice. Yeah, That answer surprised him. Then why act like it doesn't matter? Silence. Then, because it doesn't anymore. That hit harder than anything loud, because there was no anger in it, no bitterness, just truth. The gray-bearded man stepped closer, slow, careful. You built something that didn't die with you. I know. You ever think maybe that means something? The old man tilted his head slightly. Means you didn't need me. That line cut deep. You could feel it move through the crowd, not loud, but real. The gray-bearded man shook his head once. That's not how this works. That's exactly how it works. The air tightened. Again. The old man continued. You keep it running long enough, it stops being about who started it. Nobody argued, because that part was true. The man stepped closer, now only a few feet from the porch. It was never about just starting it. Pause. It was about what you stood for. Silence. Then the old man spoke. People changed that. That was also true. Too true. The gray-bearded man nodded slowly. Yeah, they do. Then he added, but not all of it. That line held, because every man standing there knew it. There were still rules, still lines, still things that didn't get crossed, not if you wanted to stay. The youngest looked out at the rows behind him, then back. They all know your name. The old man didn't react. They shouldn't. They do. Pause. They've been riding under it for years. That shifted something, small but real. The old man's fingers tightened slightly, just for a second, then relaxed. You gave them something to stand on. The gray-bearded man said, and then you disappeared. Silence, then quieter. You don't get to decide it didn't matter. That was the first real push, not loud, but solid. The old man turned his head slightly toward him. You don't get to decide it still does. That hit back. Equal, no emotion, just truth meeting truth. The tension held for a few seconds. Then the gray-bearded man did something different. He stepped back, not forward, not pushing anymore, just stepped back. Then turned slightly toward the crowd. They didn't come here for answers. Pause. They came because one of them is alive. He pointed slightly back toward the road. Because of him. The focus shifted, not away from the old man, but wider, more real. They came because that still matters. That landed. Because now it wasn't about legend. It was about action. Now, present, real. The old man didn't move, but his breathing changed slightly. Deeper. Slower. The gray-bearded man turned back to him. You don't want anything from us. No. You don't need anything. No. Another pause. Then, that's not the point, the old man said. Nothing. So the man finished it. We do. Silence. Heavy. Because that flipped everything. The old man stood there, still, quiet. And for the first time, he didn't answer right away. Because now it wasn't about him. It was about them. The silence changed, not empty anymore. Heavy, full, like something was about to happen and everyone felt it at the same time. The old man stood there, still, listening. Not to the engines anymore, to the people, the way they stood, the way they breathed, the way no one moved unless they had to. That told him more than anything. The gray-bearded man didn't step closer again, didn't push. He just spoke low. They rode through the night. Pause. Some of them further than you'd think. Another pause. No one asked why. That mattered, because that's how it used to be. The old man knew that. He remembered it, before it got bigger, before it got complicated. You don't lead something like that, the man continued, without leaving something behind in it. The old man didn't answer, but his head tilted slightly, just a fraction. The gray-bearded man saw it. You hear it, don't you? Silence. Then, yeah. Quiet, almost under his breath. But it was there, that sound. Not engines, not noise. Something else. The presence, the discipline, the way hundreds of men stood still without being told. That didn't happen by accident. That came from somewhere. The youngest looked around again, now slower, now different, like he was starting to understand what he was part of. They're not moving. The older biker beside him answered, They won't. Why? Because he hasn't told them to. That hit, because it was true. Even without orders, even without knowing him, they were waiting. For him. The old man shifted slightly on the porch, just enough that the wood creaked. That sound carried, and it moved through the crowd, subtle but real, like a signal. The gray-bearded man noticed, didn't react, just watched. You still have it, he said. The old man frowned slightly. What? That thing. Pause. That makes them listen. The old man shook his head once, slow. No. You just don't use it anymore. That was closer. The old man didn't answer, because that part was harder to deny. The gray-bearded man took one slow step forward again, not pushing, just standing closer. You don't want to come back. No. You don't want the club. No. You don't want the name. No. Each answer the same, flat, final. Then the man nodded once. Good. That caught a few of them off guard. The youngest looked at him. What do you mean, good? The man didn't look at him, still focused on the old man. Means this isn't about any of that. Pause, then. This is about making sure you're not left here like this. That landed, different. The old man's face tightened slightly. Like what? Alone. Silence. Because that word hit something, even if he didn't show it. The old man answered quickly, I'm not alone. The man nodded once. I know. Then added, but you shouldn't be forgotten either. That one went deeper, because those weren't the same thing. The old man didn't respond, didn't move. The gray-bearded man turned slightly, looked at the crowd, then back. They're not here to take you anywhere. Pause. They're here to bring something to you. Now that changed everything. The youngest frowned. Bring what? The man didn't answer him. Instead, he raised his hand slightly. Not high, not dramatic, just enough. And the effect was instant. Movement, not chaos. Organized, controlled. Several bikers stepped forward from different rows, carrying things. Boxes, tools, metal parts, fuel cans, wood, more coming behind them. The old man stood still, listening, trying to understand. The sound of objects being set down, placed carefully, not thrown, not rushed. The gray-bearded man spoke again. You said you fix what's broken. Pause. So do we. That line hit, because now it was clear. This wasn't a visit. This wasn't a moment. This was action. Real. Immediate. The old man's jaw tightened slightly. "You don't need to do this." The man nodded. "We know." Then, "That's kind of the point." The youngest looked around as more men moved forward, lining things up, organizing without being told. "What are they doing?" The older biker beside him answered quietly. "They're building." "Building what?" He didn't answer right away, because now it was obvious, but still hard to say out loud. Then, "Whatever he needs." Silence settled again, but this time it was different. Not heavy, not tense, focused. The old man stood on the porch, still listening, as hundreds of men started working for him. No one gave orders, no one shouted, no one asked what to do, and still, everything moved, clean, precise, like they had done this 100 times before. The old man stood on the porch, listening. Boots on dirt, metal set down, wood shifting, tools clicking together. He knew those sounds, every single one. The gray-bearded man stayed where he was, watching, making sure it stayed right, not controlling it, just holding it together. The youngest walked slowly through the yard, trying to understand. "They're not even talking." The older biker beside him nodded slightly. "They don't need to." "Who told them what to build?" "No one." That didn't make sense to him. But it didn't need to, because this wasn't something you explained. This was something you learned by being in it. More men stepped forward, some clearing space, some unloading, some already working. Fast, efficient, like time mattered. The old man's head tilted slightly, following every movement, every sound. His voice came low. "You're fixing the yard?" The gray-bearded man shook his head once. "No." Pause. "We're fixing everything." That line carried. The old man didn't respond, but his breathing shifted again, just slightly. The first sound of a generator kicked on. Low hum. Then tools. Real tools. Not small ones. Heavy. Serious. The youngest stepped back a little. "This is too much." The gray-bearded man answered without looking at him. "It's not enough." Because it wasn't. Not for what this was. Not for who he was. The old man finally spoke again. "You don't know what I need." The man nodded once. "You're right." Then, "That's why we're not guessing." He turned his head slightly. "Bring it up." A few bikers moved immediately, from the back rows, carrying something heavier, covered. Careful, slow steps. The old man heard it. Weight, metal, balance. Something familiar. His jaw tightened slightly. "What is that?" No answer yet. They brought it closer, up the yard, toward the porch. Set it down gently, right in front of him. The gray-bearded man stepped forward, grabbed the cover, paused for half a second, then pulled it off. Silence hit again, hard, because now it was clear. Another bike. Not old, not broken, new, but built right. Custom, solid, everything done with purpose. The old man didn't move, but his head tilted slightly, listening, taking it in. "You said you don't ride anymore," the gray-bearded man said. "No, we're not asking you to." Pause, then, "But you should still have one." That landed deep, because that wasn't about riding. That was about something else. The old man's hand moved slightly, just once, then stopped. "You built the first one," the man continued. "We built this one for you." Silence. Heavy. Real. The youngest looked at the bike, then at the old man. "That's insane." No one corrected him, because it was. The gray-bearded man stepped back again, giving space, not pushing it, not forcing it. The old man stood there, still, listening, feeling the presence of it, the shape, the weight, the meaning. He exhaled slowly. "Don't need it." The man nodded. "We know," then added, "That's not why it's here." Pause. "It's here because you should have never been left without one." That line hit the hardest so far, because it wasn't about now. It was about everything in between, all the years, all the time, all the silence. The old man didn't answer, didn't move, but something in him shifted, small but real. The gray-bearded man turned slightly again, looked at the rest. "They're not done." And he was right, because behind him, more was coming. More work, more building, more fixing. The house, the land, everything around him being rebuilt piece by piece. Not loud, not dramatic, just done right. The old man stood on that porch, listening to all of it, and for the first time, it didn't feel like something he could just ignore. They didn't stop, not after the bike, not after the yard, not after the house. They kept going, piece by piece, fixing things no one asked about, things no one saw at first. Roof panels, loose boards, water line, old wiring. Even the road leading in, gravel leveled, cleared, made solid again. The old man stood on the porch, listening. Every sound, every movement, every decision. No wasted effort. No mistakes. That told him everything. The gray-bearded man walked up beside the steps, didn't go all the way up, still kept that line. "We found the well line." The old man didn't respond. "It was cracked." Pause. "It's not anymore." Silence. Then, "You checked the line?" First real question from him. The man nodded. "Yeah." Another pause. Then the old man said quietly, "Good." That one word meant more than anything else he'd said so far, because it wasn't rejection, it wasn't distance, it was acceptance. Small, but real. The youngest was standing near the new bike, running his hand along the frame. Careful. "This is perfect." One of the older bikers beside him nodded. "It should be." The youngest glanced toward the porch. "He's not even touching it." The older man answered low. "He doesn't need to." That took a second to land, but when it did, it made sense. Because this wasn't about the bike. Not really. The gray-bearded man looked back at the house, then at everything around it, then back at him. "We'll rotate people through here." That got a reaction. Small, but there. The old man's head turned slightly. "What?" "Not all at once." Pause. "Just a few at a time." Another pause. "Fix things when they break." Silence. The old man didn't answer, so he added, "You don't have to ask." That line sat heavy, because it changed everything. It meant this wasn't temporary. This wasn't just tonight. This was ongoing. The old man finally spoke. "I didn't ask for that." The man nodded. "I know." Then, "You didn't ask for anything." Pause. That's the problem. That landed because it was true. The old man stood there, still processing it. The idea of people coming and going, of not being alone anymore, of something staying. The youngest walked closer to the porch, slow, careful. "Why didn't you ever come back?" The gray-bearded man didn't stop him, because now it was okay to ask. The old man didn't answer right away. Long pause, long enough that it almost felt like he wouldn't answer at all. Then, "I burned with it." That line came quiet, but it cut through everything. The yard, the work, the people, all of it. Silence dropped, heavy. The youngest frowned slightly. "But you didn't die." The old man nodded once. "Should've." That explained everything, more than any long story could. The gray-bearded man looked at him, didn't argue, didn't try to fix that, because some things you don't touch. The old man added, "Couldn't see after that." Pause. "Didn't need to anymore." That was it. That was the reason. Not anger, not betrayal, just ending. The youngest looked down, didn't say anything else, because now he understood, at least enough. The gray-bearded man stepped back slightly, looked at the work around them, then at the crowd. "We're done here for tonight." No one argued, no one questioned, because they knew this part was finished. Engines didn't start right away. No rush. Men packing up, putting tools away, checking things twice, leaving it right. The old man stood on the porch, listening as it all shifted from work to departure. The sound of engines slowly coming back, one by one, low, controlled. The gray-bearded man turned back to him. "You won't be alone anymore." The old man didn't answer, didn't agree, didn't refuse. Just stood there, because something had already changed, and they both knew it. The engines faded slow, not all at once, one by one, rolling out, back onto the road, into the night, until the sound dropped, layer by layer, until it was gone. Real silence again. The kind that settles into the ground, the kind that stays. The old man stood on the porch, didn't move, listening, not to engines anymore, to what was left behind. The yard, different now, not broken, not forgotten, built, solid, alive again. The wind moved through it, carried new sounds, loose gravel no longer shifting wrong, wood holding steady, metal sitting where it should. Everything right. The gray-bearded man was the last to leave. He stood at the bottom of the steps, didn't rush it, didn't fill the silence, just stood there. "You hear it?" he asked. The old man tilted his head slightly. "Yeah." "What is it?" Pause, then, "Nothing's falling apart." That was the answer, and it was enough. The man nodded once, slow. "That's the idea." He turned slightly, started walking toward his bike, then stopped. Didn't turn back, just said, "We'll be back." Not a question, not a warning, just fact. The old man didn't answer, didn't tell him not to, didn't tell him to stay away, just stood there. Because now it didn't matter. They were already coming back. The man got on his bike, engine started, low, familiar. Then he rode out, the last one. The sound faded into the distance, and the night settled again. The old man stood there for a while, long enough for the air to go still, long enough for everything to quiet down. Then he stepped forward, slowly, off the porch, onto the ground, barefoot, feeling it, solid, level, different. He walked a few steps, stopped, turned slightly, listening. The new bike sat a few feet away, still waiting. Not loud, not demanding, just there, He stood in front of it. Didn't touch it at first. Just stood, like he was remembering something. Not clearly, but enough. Then his hand lifted. Slow, careful. Fingers brushing the frame. Cold metal. New. Clean. Built right. He kept his hand there for a second, two, then pulled it back. Exhaled slowly. Should have left it alone. But his voice didn't match the words, because it wasn't regret, not really. He turned, walked back toward the house, stopped at the door, then paused. Something small, something different. He reached to the side, felt along the wall, found the switch, hesitated, just for a second, then flipped it. The porch light came on, soft, warm, cutting through the dark. The yard lit up, everything visible now. Everything they had done, everything they left behind. He stood there, facing nothing, seeing nothing, but knowing it was all there. The light stayed on. He didn't turn it off, didn't go back inside right away. Just stood there, in the quiet, in the place that wasn't empty anymore. And for the first time in years, the silence didn't feel the same. Not heavy, not hollow, just quiet. And somewhere far off, faint, barely there, engines echoed on the road, not leaving, just circling back.